and welcome to the SNS ICE podcast, your go-to source for the latest news and in-depth insights into the world of 6G in Europe. Join us as we dive into industry news, analyze the latest trends, and discuss the development of the new generation of cellular networks.
Welcome to this podcast on Non-Terrestial Networks, NTN, in the series of SNS ICE podcast. My name is Toon Norp. I'm a senior business consultant at TNO, and I'm here with Amina Boubendir, head of research and standardization at Airbus, and Maria Guta, senior 5G 6G solution Satcom solution architect at the European Space Agency. Welcome, listeners, and I would like to first ask speakers to shortly introduce themselves and what are they doing in their daily life related to NTN. Amina.
Thank you, Ton. Hi, everyone. Thank you again for the invitation. I'm with Airbus Defence and Space, and our main activity is satellite communications. So I look after the research, that's the research and technology portfolio in terms of communication networks. This is 5 to 10 years outlook of research and technology development, and also standardization, which is going stronger in a stronger way towards the satellite industry when it comes to communication networks. And this is more of a 3 to 5 years outlook from the research and technology development.
Okay, thank you. Maria?
Yes, hello. Thank you for having me in this podcast. So I am with the European Space Agency, but specifically the Connectivity and Secure Communications Directorate, so Telecom Directorate. And within what we call NTN office, we are focused on the strategy for 5G, 6G for NTN. And so it's more than 10 years we have established this unit, and we deal with R&D, research and development. For us, as my previous colleague said, shorter term, 5 or 10 years, longer term, dealing with prototyping, developing, experimentation, piloting, and drafting the roadmap. And we also support developments short term with higher TRL technology readiness level. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So first time I was hearing about non-terrestrial networks was in the context of 5G Satcom integration. But how is that going now? 5G Sat, where are we? Where are we with non-terrestrial networks? What's going on now? Mina.
So when it comes to Airbus Defence and Space, it's basically building on years of competences when it comes to satellite communications. The legacy satellite communications were more geo oriented, geo solutions, with no integration with 5G. And we can understand that. So geo is the highest orbit, so we cannot really imagine the integration with 5G for that type of solutions. Coming to the needs that are rising from the industry, from different industry sectors, from the current users in all domains, civil, military, governmental, they're calling for more bandwidth, for more coverage, for more resilience. And the integration between LEO solutions and 5G solutions is the most accurate one, technically. So it goes through studying and in an integration phase, at the access level on the ground, how we can imagine both the satellite access plus the 5G access, but also on board of the satellite, how 5G components, mainly from the GNOP, from the 5G radio access network, can go on board of the satellite and achieve this integration. Many of the work being done at Airbus is, as I said, LEO-oriented when it comes to this integration, related very strongly to standardization, where we are influencing the studies on the impact of the 5G system after putting the GNOP on board of the satellite, and on the run aspects also, how new bands like KU bands can help us achieve new use cases. So we we are aware that it has to go through standardization and through partnerships, and we have a lot to deal with in terms of also raising awareness with policymakers and member states when it comes to European projects. So we are active in all these, and also R&D, when it comes to pre-products and standardization very actively.
Yeah. Also, ESA has been very much active in 5G Satcom and driving the standardization. How far is the standardization now on 5G Satcom?
Okay, as you said, of course, this, if we could call adventure, started almost 10 years ago when the satellite industry, actually from our member states, and we are very proud of it, they participated to 3GPP with a study item on release 16, and from release 17, the satellite, or called Non-Terrestial Networks, are part of the 3GPP ecosystem. So this effort continues, and we support the next releases with enhancements in the features and the capabilities of what the NTN can offer, both for broadband using the NR, new radio, and also IoT systems. And of course, as all we know now, it's very trendy to discuss about direct to device, which started from direct to handheld smartphone. Now, device can be everything, right? And therefore, we have a lot of discussions, and there are a lot of discussions in our member states and in Europe, in the industry, for new partnerships, for technology road mapping and developing road mapping. And all the companies, I must say, of the satellite sector are now already have complete roadmaps, but also drafting also the last ones, if you like, that they need to introduce this 3GPP technology in their products roadmap. So it is advancing a lot. In ESA, we support a lot also in orbit experimentation. As Amina said before, with the introduction of more functionalities on board, which is necessary, and we can develop this later, there is a lot to be implemented on board, and there is also a need to experiment and to prove evidence that this works, and we support it.
So, in conclusion, can we say like the standards for 5D Satcom integration, they're sufficiently done, but now it's about experimentation, implementation to get it to market? Is that a correct understanding?
I would say there's still a lot to do
Also on
in
5D Satcom.
in standardization, in and experimentation. So release 17, as Maria mentioned, release 16 is there. Release 17 came to complement release 18 as well, but they all deal with GEO. We saw the LEO and 5G more present in release 19, and we have pushed for it along with ESA. We pushed for the LEO studies to be as part of release 19. The studies have just become mature, and we're moving into normative work, but we're quite sure that even release 19 is not enough. And Maria mentioned direct to device. This has been covered slightly in each release, but we still need a lot of further developments in standardization about direct to device, mainly because of the positioning of the ecosystem of the terrestrial and the satellite industry players. We need to work together, but also think of what are the business models when it comes to mass market or for B2B. And technically, it has a translation, and it starts within the standardization bodies. So 3GPP is one of them, but there are others. You probably heard of MSSA, which is trying to Mobile Satellite Service Association, which is trying to promote the direct to device, working closely with 3GPP, but it's still a narrow, let's say, topic compared to everything 3GPP has to deal with. So that's why, as a satellite industry, we need to show the importance that it has for us, but also how this can impact or change the way of doing of operators, mobile operators in general. So there is still a lot to do, and experimentation has to continue in parallel to validate what the past releases have been doing. And it is an integration, continuous integration, whether in research or in standardization. We see that our approach, and it's validated by everything we're doing, is to build upon what we have already done. So this is by definition the work in standardization. We very rarely, even when we talk about 6G, we very rarely talk about a clean slate approach. We're really building on what we have already.
And because that's my next question. If we're looking at research, we're now starting with 6G and 6G NTN. That's what now we're hearing in research. What would be then the difference between 6G NTN and 5G NTN? Maria, maybe?
The satellite sector actually is revolutionized with with the adoption of the new technology, and this is due to softwareization. So many things have to be looked at seriously, and these are the drivers of the NTN design and development. So to start with, for sure, into the 6G era, we are starting with multi-orbit, so multi-layer, if I could say, space infrastructure that complements the terrestrial one. And you know very well, these discussions have started already at the first stage in 3GPP standardization. What we could see also from discussions with industry, since there is the geo fleet, space fleet ready there, then the multi-orbit, so geo, LEO, and terrestrial networks integration will start quite faster than we would think before. So, but if we project ourselves into the 6G, we could say that for sure the vision is to have a continuum between communications, computing, and sensing for NTN. So satellites that can be as a service, or payloads as a service, that can do this task of communications, computing, and sensing. And therefore, we talk about space infrastructure that is not only multi-tenancy ones, but multi-operator infrastructure, where we need to share the different assets. And the third, perhaps future path is also to offer space communications. And there is in ESA the Moonlight initiative that aims to offer communications on the moon, but from the moon to the Earth, and also some more futuristic paths to offer these communications to deeper space. And of course, we will start from 5G or 6G in these cases.
Yeah. If you look at the visions that there are for 6G, and for instance, the IMP 2030 vision, it's this nice picture they have with use cases. One of the use cases is ubiquitous intelligence, and there's also security and resilience as overarching aspects. What is the role of NTN in achieving these kind of things, Amina?
Yeah, so if we look at the famous wheel diagram from the IMT 2030, there are the three pillars are very complementary. They have as a backbone as well the connectivity. If we look at the connectivity today from the terrestrial, of course, it covers the major areas in urban areas and enterprise, for example, use cases. But when we look from a global perspective, we definitely need to extend this coverage to make sure the terrestrial and the non-terrestrial networks come together to achieve wider coverage. I want to call it global, but of course we need to optimize in terms of what are we covering. When we look at use cases that are extra urban or sectors that are active outside the urban areas, like the maritime or the oil and gas or even anything that is crisis management or response to emergencies. These can happen anywhere. And if we don't have the network available, then the first responders or the people that need to work on that area are their work is impossible. And the global coverage is really key. So this comes with the integration and making sure we cover through LEO, GEO. So the multi-orbit is really, really important. So how we can use any asset from space to complement the terrestrial, and maybe more of a B2B approach when it comes to these sectors that are outside the urban areas. What is directly related to that is the resilience. So we need this coverage, but we need it to be available and reliable. So, and resilient, because we cannot start a critical operation and not rely on a strong network. So we are at Airbus Defence and Space, we're really sensitive to that. All our use cases or our solutions have very high requirements when it comes to security and resilience and availability. And we probably seen as well that in traditional, in standard solutions, these are security comes last. Like we even though it has to be part, we talk about security as by design, for example, but we cannot afford still doing those approaches of adding security solutions on top of the connectivity solutions. We have to think about them together, and we have in solutions within Airbus, but also through standardization, ways to include security in the solutions as part of the nominal solution, I would say, not as just an upgrade in case the use case is calling for higher requirements, but also the redundancy schemes. So it goes together with the redundancy schemes. So if first responders have to go and operate in an area, they must have at least two options with the right redundancy scheme. So this is directly linked to everything we have as a big requirements from not only in Europe, but in terms of sovereignty as well. So, for example, if I would like to mention the Iris Square, it is now a known topic. We definitely in Europe need to rely on such solutions. Like Iris Square is a big ambition in Europe, and it should help us reach this connectivity from space and from Earth, but also the right level of resilience.
If one of our listeners wants to participate more in research into non-terrestrial networks, where is it going on now? Is there an ESA, I'm presuming, in SNS? Can you sketch a picture of where in Europe is there non-terrestrial networks research going on?
I think at least if I can take so at least at 3 layers. So we have the SNS joint undertaking that looks up also into NTN, but I think it is more on lower TRL aspects. Of course, ESA holistically addresses the argument, because it is not only the specific system or concepts of validation, it's also the whole spacecraft. So it is the technology that has to do with NTN, that it is ground space and networking, but has also to do with auxiliary technologies like platforms, like launchers, and of course artificial intelligence when it is useful for the different processes and operations of the NTN system. However, there are also important national funds through national projects in almost all European countries that have looked into the NTN component, like in Germany, in UK, or in France, in Italy, Finland, to name some. And so ESA side, we work with all together, so we have relationships with SNSGU, but we have also relationships at the national level with our member states, and we try to harmonize roadmaps and activities, at least to get the synergies of all these public funds towards the development of NTN in order to accelerate and take advantage of all these things happening.
Anything to add that you think, oh, that's also
No, that's so we are active through European projects under the 6G SNS. We are also active in the 6G Industry Association to help, to work with other industries, but also with the public parties on putting the strategies for Europe. I think the 6G Industry Association is doing great work in consulting both the public and the private sectors and putting together all the contributions to set a work program that is really federating the maximum of players in the industry. We were, along with Maria, actively contributing to that through different workshops. Also, still in Europe and in Airbus Defense Space, we're also working through the European Defense Agency or the European Defense Funds for R&D. But also national, so the National Research Agency or the French strategy for acceleration of 5G, France 2030. And these are great mechanisms to help promote R&D, not to do it only in-house. It doesn't really make sense to build a long-term view our strategy alone. When we look at the type of solutions and the ecosystem, that it has to go through collaboration, and it has to start through R&D, then go to standardization. What we see in standardization, we never do things alone. It's a consensus basis, so we need to discuss with partners and make things work for everyone. So it starts, and it's a great tool to help pave the way for standardization and for real systems coming to the business, to start through R&D, building a common vision or maybe disruptive visions, but working with partners. And all these are very useful mechanisms.
Maria, in 3GPP, you see the Satcom industry is meeting other operators, network vendors, device vendors, but the Satcom industry is kind of organized to together meet with the other sectors in 3GPP. So what is going on that aspect? How does the Satcom industry work together?
Yeah, okay. So, of course, the satellite sector is open and has opened even more with the years. But we felt this pulse, if you like, in ISA. So we promoted and we created what is called NTN Forum. So it's an open collaborative platform, open to all industry globally. So not only the satellite industry per se, but also the terrestrial or the vertical representatives and software and technology providers alike. This has been created and kicked off in July this year. We already have 340 members and coming from 34 countries, all the continents, 190 organizations. And we start discussing all together. It's not only on pre-standardization, how we go to standardization and what we can, as a group, all together promote, but it's also on what to experiment, what to prioritize, what technology to prioritize, what other transversal technology we should also experiment together, like the artificial intelligence. What is needed? There is needed a lot on training data, on exchanging information on that from the early experience we have. Also, working groups to discuss with verticals, because NTN serves a group of verticals. It doesn't serve a single use case, a single market sector, but a lot. So we need to federate all these needs. And from the participation and the answer we have from the worldwide, we are quite confident that it is a nice step forward. We also collaborate with other associations because, for example, GSMA is one that becomes interested in NTN, but of course they are pitches from the point of view of the MNOs that would like to to use NTN. So this one, the NTN to forum, is more holistically on NTN and looking into the different pieces of this puzzle to make it true. But what Amina was saying is also very, very important, is also to define how are the interfaces between the actors. So there are quite new business models, new business or value chains that are popping up, and we need to understand how the different actors exchange information between them. And this is actually something that we are to discuss first.
Final question. We're reaching almost the end of our podcast. So we're looking at 6G. In your own view, Amina and Maria, what is the technology aspect that is really crucial that we really need to make this 6G end-to-end NTN a success?
I would go back to the approach where we're building on our current developments. I think 6G will confirm and is a way to close gaps that we are still identifying in 5G, and there are a lot at different levels. What is really visible is that all the enablers that are kind of paradigm shifts that came with 5G have been integrated, like being it software oriented or being it API driven, for example, the programmability in the networks that we can have, or the virtualization of the cloud infrastructure. All these are somehow becoming obvious, even though they were not at all in 5G. And they're somehow changing because NTN is an integral part now for 6G. We, if it's native, if NTN is native to 6G, then it has to embrace also these changes. And we can see it, for example, on the ground segment for Satcom. We're talking about virtual ground segment, and it's very similar to the cloud one. So how we can virtualize the access of the Satcom on the ground. And then the integration with 5G would become easier because we would rely more on software oriented components that can be hosted in the cloud, where the access on the antennas can be merging the two accesses. So that's already there, but also already there in standardization through IEEE. On the space, we're also talking about having cloud capabilities on board of the payload, and so hosting different payloads. So these are also enablers that in 6, not in 5G NTN, but through 6G hopefully would get the NTN part to the same level as the terrestrial 5G. So it was really maturing what is already there, getting the transformation, because actually it is a transformation that goes with the. I'm insisting on the digitalization part because it is an enabler for more dynamicity and for more flexibility, and by flexibility I mean opening up to new users, new profiles of users. Because if my system is flexible, then I can adapt to any kind of sector, any kind of business client. So I really believe that 6G will confirm many of great ideas we had in 5G, but we didn't really mature in research, or that we didn't still integrate in standardization. I would just insist maybe on the direct to device, which will call for many new developments, not just for IoT, but for broadband. And this is lacking. So IoT is mature, but the broadband and plus critical broadband is still to be matured.
Maria, anything that springs to mind for you about what we need?
Well, for what concerns the space segment, we really we have power constraints, and therefore we need to develop hardware or chipsets or FPGAs that can be used on board, and to be also a technology autonomous from other countries, for example, in Europe. So this is something we need to look after the coming period. Of course, all that was mentioned by Amina is there, because we need still to define the concepts that, for example, permit us to have load balancing on the space between different nodes in the space, discovery of the best neighbor where we communicate with. So these are new things that perhaps were not directly of priority for terrestrial networks, but pop up with NTN. And there is, just to start with, there is an important component new. It's called topology manager, because the terrestrial networks are somehow static in their components. The satellites are moving. So we have to, to marry the network orchestration with the topology orchestration, and of course define the right interfaces for the integrated terrestrial networks. So there are different levels of orchestration popping up for NTN. So our industry is working on that already. So one thing I could mention also is, of course, very important to follow, and we follow the 3GPP standardization, but it's also very important to look after other industrial fora that offer some implementation solutions, and how this can be adopted for NTN, like ORAN or AI RAN. Also, what happens in the management forum and IETF, because we need also to develop new networking solutions on board once we have these very intelligent regenerative payloads.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I think integration of satellite communication with mobile communication for NTN, it is getting there, but there is still a lot to do, and we can still do a lot of research towards 6G NTN. Thanks very much, Amina. Thanks, Maria. Thanks for the listeners listening to this podcast. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I will close the podcast now. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This podcast is brought to you by SNS ICE, an EU-backed project focused on creating a collaborative environment for the development and deployment of 6G smart networks and services. The project has received funding from the European Union's Horizon Europe Research and Innovation Programme under Grant Agreement number 101095841.